Hi, Kurt Furmanek here. I'm a CX solutions engineer with Vertical Communications. I've been here at Vertical for just about a year and have been in the industry, well, for more years than I almost care to say. I think it's been closer to 25 or so, and been everything from running a contact center frontline to now working as a solutions engineer, helping provide solutions and trying to be a strategic partner for those that work with Vertical.
Excellent. Thanks, Kurt. My name's Craig Geronda, and I've been at Vertical for several months now. Prior to that, I led the contact center, customer engagement, and customer experience SE teams at Ring Central for 5 years globally. And I'm very focused on how we can help you with your business and grow your business using CX, customer experience, and the tools around customer experience, primarily in the cloud. So with that, we're going to dive into today's content. The advantages of migrating your CX to the cloud, which is part of the episodic webinar series that we're presenting today. So with that, who is Vertical? Well, I came to Vertical because I was really, truly impressed with the fact that Vertical is a very comprehensive communications solutions provider, but they're also a strategic partner. And we handle everything from the buyer's journey in selling through design, implementation, support, customer lifecycle support. We even provide billing for our customers. So we're an end-to-end strategic partner and solution provider. We are agnostic to the service provider solutions. We represent pretty much every service provider that is in the market, and we are looking out for our customers' best interest. And that's a huge differentiator between us and many of their competition, but also between going directly to a service provider. There are no downsides of working with Vertical. The pricing doesn't change. In many cases, our prices are lower than going directly to a service provider because we provide our own implementation services. So what I like to do is I like to start off with this slide about thinking differently, right? Everything is changing. Everything is changing, and whether it's the market, the solution providers, the service providers, the product offerings, your customers' needs, even your competition, and your needs are evolving. So think differently about how you're approaching making a strategic decision on selecting a new provider or building a customer experience practice. Very, very important to not think in the ways that you might have thought in the past when you bought a product that was going to sit in a data center, in your data center or in your closet, and was server based locally that you owned. Much, much different thinking, and we'll get more into that as we go through the slides today. So what we're really focused on is customer experience, and that's extremely important for us. And migrating your CX tools to the cloud, because you need additional capabilities and abilities to deliver an exceptional customer experience. And down at the bottom left, we have this little formula. CX isn't just contact center. CX is all of the communications, whether they're unified communications, contact center based, or even the communication platform as a service, which we do quite a bit of work with that also. So it encompasses how you're interfacing, interacting with your customers and your constituents internally. Some people say employees, some people say teammates. I like to use the word constituent because it talks about the people in your organization as your partners, as your team, not just your teammates, but people that you're working closely with for the same common vision and outcome. Now, where does customer experience fit in to most business priorities over the next 5 years. This was a very interesting slide. When we came across this slide, I was pleasantly surprised that customer experience is the most highly prioritized business need for almost half the businesses that we're surveying. And I like to look at it this way. What's your priority, right? Look at your priorities. Look at what outcomes you're trying to achieve. And then how are you competing? What do you think your competitors' top priorities are? It's great to know the landscape of what's going on with customer experience. And we added this slide, and I want Kurt to talk about this slide a little, because not only do we talk about customer experience, but personalized customer experience. Kurt, why don't you give us a little more detail on this, please?
Thank you very much, Craig. When we're talking about personalized customer experience, as it states here, it's about knowing who you're communicating with, being able to remember who they are, being able to properly identify them, and not just identify them by name, but also by what their trends are, what their buying habits are, what their needs and wants are. Those are all components of all of this. It's a matter of being able to understand who that customer is on the other side. I know, like for myself, I love it. One of my favorite credit cards that I deal with always makes a point when I first call in. They identify who I am. Hi, is this Mr. Furmanek? And they'll even ask most of the time, did I pronounce that right? Because it's not easy to pronounce. But then they'll also add in, we appreciate the fact that you've been a loyal member of our family since 1996, and that you've had these services with us. What can I do to help enhance that experience for you? And that's the approach that they take with me. And every time I call in for assistance, that's the level of service I get. And that's what your customers should be looking for and expecting. And it should be something where it's not, you know, can you give me your name? And then you hear some typing around and some other data coming up. It's the type of thing that needs to be presented as much real time as possible. And then along with that, being able to look in and be able to capture data that you may have with an associated CRM or something like that, being able to see what buying trends are or what their habits are, so that you can then reach in and say, well, we see that this is a product that you've had in the past. Did you know that we have a promotion around this instead? And now all of a sudden you've got a chance to be able to help enhance the things that you offer to that customer. So, what that helps drive is a little bit more of some of the data that we'll see. Craig, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Does it really make a difference? I guess, it's one thing to be able to call in, but does it really make a difference when you have that level of knowledge of your customer, especially right off the front end of the communication? If you can, it sure does. 80% of your customers, it said there, are more likely to buy when you personalize. 59% say personalization on previous encounters is important. So, recognizing all of that. What happens if you fail to do that? Well, you can see almost 3 out of 4 people can become frustrated when it's like, wait a minute, I've been doing business with you for a while and you still don't know who I am. Yeah, that would be frustrating. And along with that, nearly 2 out of 3 will abandon brands with bad customization. In fact, from some prior webinars that we've had, when it comes to bad interactions, customers will leave your brand in 60% of them will leave with as few as 2 bad interactions with your company. And that number jumps to 95% with 3 to 4 bad interactions. So if you're going to interact customer wise with the individuals that are on the other side of the phone, on the other side of social media, whatever it is, You want to personalize, you want to customize, and you got to do it right.
So, Kurt, how important have you found integrations to things like CRM or ERP or other systems in the ability to personalize?
It's critical. That is the main component to being able to drive that information, being able to, take maybe the caller ID or a membership number or something that has been gleaned from that initial input, whether or not they manually put it in or you've been able to, like I said, attach it from a caller ID, being able to take that data and then merge what you have with that data along with your solution that's provided on the communication side, so that's immediately available for the agents so they can see all of that data and then try to meld that as much as you can into a single interface. There's nothing worse for an agent to then be given this data, but then you've got to look at 3 or 4 different screens in order to try to put it all together. Again, the key also along with that is to provide as much as you can in a single pane of glass so that it's not only simple for the person who's called in to get the services that they require, but to have those services provided by the agent as simplified as possible. Both ends are important.
And have you found that the cloud makes those integrations easier to accomplish or more difficult to
Oh,
accomplish?
definitely easier. Definitely easier. It's we it comes down to, in many cases, 3 little letters, A, P, and I. So it it takes those it takes those application platform interfaces to be able to communicate and share data back and forth and meld it together into a common interface so that you can take that data, glean it, and then push it back out again too, so that the source of the data where that comes from can be updated with the interactions and everything else that's occurred.
Excellent. Thanks, Kurt, for
Thank you,
that. So
Craig.
I think that as we continue down our path today on what we're discussing, some of the benefits that we see for uh, from focusing on customer experience are listed on this slide. And I think it's very important to think about how these impact your business. Retaining customers is important, but providing the tools to allow people to do their jobs, your constituents to do their jobs in their roles, is extremely important, and allow their jobs to be fulfilling and enjoyable. Of course, we want to drive more revenue and we want to reduce expenses. But think about the brand building opportunity also. Word of mouth, social media. There are tremendous amounts of goodwill that you can develop by providing great personalized customer experiences. And the one area that I do find that we are having more and more discussions on, ROI, return on investment. The conversation years ago used to be on total cost of ownership. And in many cases, people still think in those terms. But we are seeing a radical shift toward return on investment. How does this investment pay off for my company, for my constituents, for my customers? And the goal at the end is to have delighted customers. Whether you call them evangelists or brand ambassadors, there are many terms to label delighted customers. These are some of the benefits we're looking at. So as you start to think through how you are crafting your customer experience and your customer experience practice, those are great points to keep in mind. And what we look at as a strategic partner, working with you to define your desired outcomes. And we want to look at your ability to execute. We're not just looking at a blank canvas and say, let's paint this very complex and complicated picture. We want to make sure we're meeting your needs, being able to deliver on your desired outcomes, but not without consideration for how you can execute. We don't want to disrupt your business. We don't want to disrupt the people in your organization or your customers. So we look at that. And then how do you measure success? So these considerations all tie together into working with the key stakeholders in your organization. Who are your key stakeholders that need to have a voice, need to have a say in defining these desired outcomes? And we think it's extremely important in today's world, with all of the complexity and the complication, to work with a strategic partner. Finding that strategic partner that you have confidence in is a very big step toward achieving success in whatever you decide to do with customer experience and most projects. We always say customer experience drives our thinking and behavior. So that's a really good touchstone. Whenever I'm talking to the team and we're talking about doing something, we'll say, well, how does that impact customer experience? That is definitely a very important consideration to look through that perspective. Now, we're coming to the cloud, migrating to the cloud. We talked about this earlier. Buying something in the cloud or subscribing to a service provider in the cloud is not the same as it was when you bought a premise-based phone system or a premise-based contact center. So I used a little saying here, the same is different. I'd like you to consider, as you're thinking differently, not just subscribing, but how are you going to adopt the technology? How is it going to impact your business? What's the plan? How are you going to measure? And what are you going to measure? Defining as much as you can early on is going to give you a really strong position to move forward. And that doesn't mean you're not going to evolve. So getting those 4 factors as part of your thought process, also extremely important. I find many companies have just looked at how am I going to, what am I subscribing to? I'm going to do a POC. If I like the management interface, if I like some of the features and functionalities and the user interface, we're good to go. And they've had very little consideration of the pro services or operations teams at the service provider and how they're going to implement or allow them to adopt that service. And it can turn into quite a challenge, whether it's cost, how you do change orders, how you identify your exact training needs for your constituents. There are many factors involved, and we've been doing this a long time. Our Net Promoter Score, Jeff, I want to say our Net Promoter Score lifetime is 83. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And 40 is considered world class. 50 is exceptional. 83 is, we're so proud of that number, right? That means we're listening to customers and that we've developed our processes and our philosophy to be focused on making sure we're delivering the outcomes you want to achieve. Okay, so taking a little different tact here. I know the title of the webinar was the advantages of migrating to cloud, but I'm taking a different angle here at first blush and talking about disadvantages. Why would people not move to the cloud? And I'm not saying these aren't valid. They're valid for many people. Just giving you some perspective. A lot of people do not want the loss of ownership, control, or responsibility for having that solution on premise, in their control, or in a data center. They want complete control. And that means that they're spending less time working on their business and they're spending a lot of time working on hardware, software upgrades, security patches, and things like that. Not necessarily the best use of the resources that you have on staff. Sometimes it's just a lack of a compelling business case. And I find many times that's because we have a TCO mindset. meaning that we already own the servers. We pay a maintenance contract. This is much cheaper than going to the cloud, which it might have unpredictable costs. And working with a strategic partner, I think those two, actually the first three, are really areas that we work with you very closely on at Vertical to understand. We need to understand your business, not just your outcomes, but what you're trying to achieve and your vision for your business. And these are not areas that are difficult to build a great business case, to look at ROI and to say, yes, I might be saving some money here by staying on-prem. However, the return on investment for putting in better tools that are going to give you a better ability to design and implement great customer experiences and measure and evolve those customer experiences, that's an ROI model. And we see some components that we implement in the cloud, and I'll get to one of them in a few slides, that has a 1 month ROI, unheard of. 1 month ROI. So every month going forward, for after your first month, you've got a great return on having implemented that part of a solution for customer experience. Now, we know some people also have premise-based decisions that have contracts. We don't have to rip and replace everything. I think you don't have to rip and replace everything. We are finding the nature of a lot of the migration to be staged or phased with a strategic outcome. And we can add components like a digital transformation or intelligent virtual assistants that are AI-based to your existing system at a very reasonable cost to you, but also with a very high ROI. And we find the other factors here, I'm not going to go through them in the same level of detail, but they're all factors that impact your business. Having a strategic partner allows us to address every one of these factors and get you the clarity and comfort, right, in our capabilities to help you achieve your outcomes, and the conviction that we have as an organization to be your strategic partner and get you to where you need to be. And not just get you there in the sale, we stay with you. So our philosophy and the way we maintain such great customer satisfaction and net promoter score numbers is that we are always there as that strategic partner during every phase of our relationship. Okay, so now on to advantages. And on the advantages, I initially built a very extensive list of the advantages, and Jeff talked me out of putting this extensive list up. And we're going to focus on the first three in today's webinar. However, during the episodic series that we have, we're going to get into every one of them. There's not enough time to go into every one in every detail. So we'll use the next webinars to dive deeper into them. So we'll look at customer experience, something that I think a lot of people are starting to really prioritize: customer expectations and understanding customer and constituent expectations. And then we'll look at some of the capabilities that are out there in the cloud to give you a little understanding of what some of the items are that you may be thinking about to improve your customer experience and what's available. Now, also, we understand in our dynamic here that we are going to be assisting you. You're going to do research and get to a certain point. We are going to bring our knowledge and know-how, our experience to the table, and help you to get from a very linear learning path to a very non-linear learning path, playing chess instead of checkers, right? We're going to be working with you to leverage our knowledge and know-how in designing your strategy, your vision, your plan, and identifying your outcomes. Okay. So customer experience strategy, right? I love the word philosophy because I think that sets the tone for everything internally with your constituents and with your customers. So we do a lot of consulting, and that consulting is really driving conversations with the right people. We're a strategic partner. We act in a very consultative manner because we're not tied to a single service provider or solution. And in many cases, we become a guide. We run into customers that already know what they want to deploy, but they need a guide to make sure that what they're subscribing to is properly designed, implemented, and they understand how to be able to measure all of the analytics components, and they need somebody to be there as an evolution partner. As a matter of fact, Kurt heads up what we call internally, and this is not on any of the slides, but we have a program called Health Check and Check Up that we offer to our customers. And those programs are meant to give you access to a professional expert like Kurt, where we work with you after you've owned the solution, and that could be as 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, a year after you've owned the solution and living with it, to do a deeper dive into it to see, are you getting the value that you want? Should we be tweaking some of the workflows, the designs, right? We run into this all the time. Kurt, I think you just did one for one of our larger customers that re-engineered the callback queues, right?
That's correct. Yes. So they were finding that their average hold times were longer than they wanted to have them, and they were getting higher abandonment rates. So in doing a consultative approach, we talked about callback and queue as a potential uh, ability to try to reduce all of those components for them. Uh, Implemented that, and they're going through we've done the rollout. They're going through the analysis, but the feedback within the first month or two is exactly what they were looking for. Their average hold times have dropped. Their customer satisfaction has gone up, and being able to really cut down on their abandonment rates. So yeah, all the things that they were looking to do just by implementing a feature that was readily available to them.
And that's just part of our normal service, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Which is great. So as we continue down this list, integrations and application development, when you're looking at that decision to move to the cloud, as we said before, it's easier to do integrations. Doesn't mean it's easy or simple in some cases. It depends what your needs are. And having a partner to help you detail those needs and what you're going to determine as your must-haves and should-haves, nice-to-haves, we'll work with you to prioritize that. And another differentiating factor for us is we have our own internal application development teams. And we do application development work using APIs, software development kits, for quite a few large customers, but that doesn't mean you can't take advantage of that regardless of the size customer you are. It's really based on your needs, and we'll provide you with an ROI model on all of that. Many times these applications involve homegrown programs that customers have created, or we might find that sometimes we'll do application development to provide customization to an already developed integration that just doesn't meet your specific needs. And we run into a lot of companies that want to do this development work to reduce the human interaction, right? They want to offer self-service. So how do we do integrations to systems to allow you to do self-service and leverage AI-based tools? Number 4 is a very interesting one. I think everybody's heard of disaster recovery. And a lot of people have, talk about business continuity. But I like to talk about it in the context of customer experience continuity. So identifying and addressing the scenarios in advance that you need to continue to deliver customer interactions and what that customer experience looks like. And we work with you to identify those and make sure that we detail that, and we can many times offer solutions that will uh, provide a high availability solution and integrate it to other apps. So your contact center will continue to work because it's a very high availability, resilient solution. What about your CRM and the integration to your CRM? What about integrations to other systems? We'll detail that with you. And then the last one on here is analytics. And this is the one that I see a lot of our customers starting to invest a lot more time and effort into, right? There's a rich set of metrics that you can draw upon. And when we design workflows with analytics in mind, we're going to design those workflows to be able to yield and deliver you the metrics that you need to evaluate, to measure and evolve your business. So that's part of what we do. It's part of what you should be looking at from a strategic partner, because the move to the migration to the cloud, migrating your CX tools to the cloud, as I said, having that strategic partner with their know-how and experience, extremely important. Now, we were talking about during the buyer's journey, same, subscribe, adopt, measure, evolve. What I like to talk about during the adoption and forward adoption, measure, and evolve is how do we design, implement, measure, and evolve? And how do you want that to look? Many times we have customers that want to have our company do their moves, adds, and changes work, their design work, but that's also evolving. And we're finding the great majority of our customers, especially as you go into larger customers, want to have that capability and access for their internal staff. For that, we really are stressing heavily on the analytics component, not just the administrative component, but the analytics component is something that you should consider. And in your subscribe, adopt, measure, evolve mode, make sure that you are properly allocating resources and budget for that training. That is a key. When people take the training, as intuitive as some of these new interfaces are, understanding the logic, understanding the nuances, and understanding how it can benefit you and what you can customize is a great investment that's going to pay dividends for the life of the service. So we talked about a lot of things. We'll just circle back. Vision and purpose, focusing on your constituents and internally and your customers, and then looking at which service provider should you be considering and which strategic partner that you should be evaluating and putting an agreement together with. So just to dive a little deeper into these, knowing your why with your vision and purpose and getting everybody to know your why makes it a lot easier to execute these projects, right? Are you bringing the stakeholders in, your constituent stakeholders in? Are you listening to your customers as you're going through and building this? Because people buy into your why, and then the how and the what become much easier. And we look at things like that cultural impact, the context of what we're trying to accomplish in your organization. And we'll get back to control again. We want to put as much control in your hands as possible, as much as you want. And it's important as you design your vision and you create your vision and your purpose for this, that people are given the correct level of access or control. And then make it collaborative. And when we start talking about moving CX to the cloud, I think it's important that we don't want to abstract CX from your ability to communicate internally or externally outside of, say, the contact center, outside of your CPaaS solution. So tying it all together and working with us, whether you go to a hybrid solution where you're still maintaining your internal PBX that might be on premises and migrating CX to the cloud, we do that all the time. And making sure that people can still work together internally, very, very important. So constituents, expectation setting. I really find this to be one of the factors that improves your success rate to an extent that it almost seems counterintuitive to have to set expectations. But when you make this collaborative and you work with understanding the needs of the business and defining those outcomes, it's very important to include your constituents. We find in many cases, um, the customer does not necessarily want to give us access to stakeholders or to other people that should have a voice in how this project or this migration should look. We find it is much, much more successful when we get the right people involved and the right people understand that they have a voice. And not only do they have a voice, but they bring value to the table and they're being listened to. Because people are absolutely in your organization becoming harder and harder to keep and harder to find. And great people are definitely fitting that. And by the way, what's your definition? We're looking at contact center. What's the definition of an agent today? That's significantly changing. I like this quote that Kurt found about retail. So someone in a retail environment is typically not considered an agent, but they're certainly a representative of your company. And we're finding that we have customers that want to push more of those conversations down to the retail floor. They want to be able to engage, have a customer engage somebody on a retail site, for example, that can answer a question better than someone in a traditional contact center environment that does not have that physical access. So very important expectation setting. We find that we can guide you in this area, but it's something you have to prioritize also as a customer. And then customers, it's the same thing for customer expectation setting, done just a little differently. And when you listen to your customer, I mean, a lot of people have voice of the customer programs today. A lot of people do customer satisfaction and net promoter scoring. I recently was involved in a project about 2 years ago where I looked at every net promoter score survey that came back, not just the numbers, but the responses in there. And then we reached out to individual customers to get additional detail from them. And they were pleasantly surprised and absolutely willing to share more. And we incorporated that into how we evolved certain processes that we had. So very, very important component here. We don't want to overlook that the customer expectation setting is important, but also listening to the customer as understanding their expectations. Okay, so capability. So now we start to think about, we've got this vision constructed. What are the capabilities of moving to the cloud, the functionality? So I took this screenshot from 5.9, but I could have easily put a Ring Central contact center or a nice CX1 contact center or any, fill in the blanks for this. There is so much capability today. Now 5.9 tends to break it down into customer engagement. There's different customer engagement types on the left, agent tools on the right, management apps up top, and then tons of integration. The point here is going to the cloud, whether you're a small customer, a medium customer, enterprise, or a global powerhouse, you have access to the same toolkit. You have access to the same capabilities. This wasn't possible on premise-based solutions to this extent ever. So now you've got this uh, set of capabilities, and you need that strategic partner to determine what you can do. We talked about earlier the impact on your business, right? The ability to execute. While I was at Ring Central, I can tell you that we worked very hard not to oversell. And I can tell you we do the same thing here at Vertical, not to oversell. There's so much capability here that it's easy to say, oh, I want everything. And then you're going to run into so much work that you're going to disrupt your business. So much work you're going to disrupt your constituents, and that's not going to improve your customer experience. So it's understanding what you have, understanding what your outcomes are, and then working to deliver them in a way that makes sense for your ability to execute and not disrupt your business. Right? Lots of different things that you can add. I'm going to go into an example here of one that Kurt is an expert at: intelligent virtual assistant. So this is an AI powered solution that can be leveraged and connected to a legacy phone system. It can be connected to a legacy premise-based contact center solution, or it's part of, in this case, either 5.9 or 8x8. They have the same solution for this tool. 8x8 just happens to call it the IVR, the Intelligent Interactive Voice Response Solution. But it's not just voice, it's also intelligence, AI-powered intelligence with chat. So Kurt, we've built a bunch of these now. We have a lot of them that we are listing here for leveraging this AI-based technology. I'm going to jump to one that you created. Well, you created a bunch, but here's one that you created, and we call this Customer One Storyline Number 4. Tell us about this a little, would you, Kurt?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, so is part of what we try to do is relay and make something as realistic as possible. And so when we talk to our customers, you need to understand that if you're going to provide a solution for them, there are elements of that that have to be gathered together. And so when we do a presentation back around it, we want to utilize those same elements. Those elements first start with the setting. So, what are your current challenges? What's going on? Like in this case here, the company's having a tough time staffing and training and retaining their agents. They got long queue times. It's tough to get to a live agent. And a lot of times, they're handling mundane routine type of interactions, type of thing where, what's the status of my order? Can you tell me what my balance is on this? Well, those are the kind of things that could be handled better by somebody that's not a live agent. So those are the kind of things that you want to try to gather information on. Then you need to know, who are the characters involved? Who are the individuals that you're trying to serve and solve for? So it's not a matter of just only solving for the agent and trying to free up some of their time, but who's on the other side. So in this case, we designated a character as a person by the name of Ann, as a young sales professional, values time, likes to use the mobile device. So here's what they're trying to get solved. Okay,
Sorry
so
about that, Kurt.
no problem. So the
Hey, can
conflict
I can
here
I
is
stop you for 1 second,
sure.
Kurt?
Yeah, yeah,
So what we've done and what we will do with you is we like to work on this storytelling,
there you go.
right, format: setting, characters, conflict, resolution. When we outline this and when we work with you to outline some of your workflows and the customer experiences you want to deliver, putting it into this format really helps us to tell that story. And those are the 4 elements that every successful story need. They don't have to be in this order. You can start with characters, you can start with conflict, you just can't start with resolution. So Kurt, I'm going to shut up again. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And then as part of that, with the conflict here, what are we trying to solve for them? So, Ann's out of town, wants to get a status update, pick up some things at the nearest store, get an update on a case, and resolve it if need be. and then get some confirmation about how do I get to find the store. And so the resolution for all that is to try to provide an AI driven solution that will do all of those things. And then so what we do then is, as part of the presentation, we'll step through knowing all of those components and show how that can work. And as part of the presentation here, the individual calls in, solves three different components, and at no point in time needs to talk to a live agent. Now they're offered the opportunity multiple times, but they don't actually have to choose that, and they're actually able to handle all this through self-service.
And when you build these, Kurt, you're integrating to order systems. You're integrating to
Yep,
multiple different systems here, right?
that's correct.
Trouble
Yeah, you can
ticket
put.
systems.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, customer relationship management, ERPs, databases, whatever may be the case. Yes, exactly right.
So this is a great example of a very fast ROI investment, because when you look at being able to, and this is not just replacing agents, right? This is offloading the mundane work that agents find to be not difficult, but not very productive. And you find not to be very productive because you're paying people to do things that can be automated. This can allow you to repurpose agents to spend more time on a phone call with a customer, making a sale or making the customer happy, right? Or providing that level of support that the customer expects and needs. So the ROI on this, we've seen ROIs as fast as 1 month on this. It's exceptionally high value for implementing. And this does not require you to rip and replace anything. This is an additional cloud-based service that can be integrated to what you already have.
And just because you're not talking to a live agent doesn't mean you're not providing a personalized customer experience. Through all of this, able to access all the things relevant to me, and I can get the data I need, get the changes I need, and it's all personalized to me and what my expectations are and your knowledge of me.
So I
So just
think,
because yeah, go ahead.
no, I think AI is, everybody hears about the OpenAI and ChatGPT. These tools are powered by OpenAI, which is the company that owns ChatGPT, right? So this is very, very big today because of its fast ROI and the personalization of that customer experience that you can deliver. And the wait times are zero. You size this for your volume of calls, and you're not going to run into staffing issues with getting access to this tool. Okay, so I know we're getting close to being out of time here today, so I'm going to jump in, show you a little numbers here, right, Kurt? These numbers are pretty mind-boggling, right?
Yeah, pretty compelling here. The fact that you know uh, consumers are expecting, if they need to support issues resolved, they need it done immediately. And that expectation is less than 10 minutes. If text is available, 89% of customers will choose to use text. Okay, and 80% of people here in the U.S. consider speed, convenience, and competent assistance as part of providing that positive customer experience. So yeah, it's all about solving that immediacy and giving self-service as an option for them.
Knowing your customer expectations allows you to create those desired outcomes you want to achieve and design, implement, measure, and evolve what you're delivering, right? It is a very, very powerful circle of of uh, customer experience. Here's some other factors here that these surveys popped up, and we're not going to go through each one of them because we're close to the end of time here. But this is 91% of customers would use an online knowledge base if available and tailored to their needs. So one of the things you can do with this IVA is you can actually use the IVA as a voice-powered FAQs tool. And it's pretty impressive. We have some demos of it that we can schedule with you. It's very, very impressive because people are looking for an answer. Most people don't want to hunt for an answer, but if you deliver the capabilities of the system allow you to deliver that type of information to somebody without talking to an agent. It's pretty cool. Also, with the IVA in place, we've got a lot of empirical data here. The left shows you the abandoned call rate without the IVA. The right shows you with the IVA, and this is over thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of calls. That's a huge impact on ROI, a huge impact, and it's a huge impact on your constituents, on their ability to do their jobs and focus on higher importance, higher urgency jobs, and for your customers, and that immediacy that you can provide. So I'm going to go over to one more point here. While AI has got a lot of the attention in the media, digital transformation is absolutely front and center in virtually every conversation we have. Your customers want to choose how they can engage with you. So I tell you right away that your customers are using social media. You probably have a presence on social media. How do you tie the two together and bring them into the ability to communicate with your customers and measure how you communicate with your customers? This is another set of features that are very easily accessible through the cloud and can be a full transition to cloud, or can be additional capabilities that can be part of a hybrid solution with what you currently have. 3 out of 4 customers expect customer service via social media. Not a lot of companies are delivering that on that promise or on that expectation that customers have. You can be, and it can be reasonably achieved through migrating to the cloud. Lots of good information here that prove that what most people already know. Customers like social media, and they're more prone to buy from you after having a positive social media experience. Now I'm going to pivot one more time here. Choosing a strategic partner. We like to call it the vertical difference. This is our little ad here for us. We're not like a service provider who wants you to buy their solution because that's the solution they're selling. We want you to buy the right solution. So we invest a lot of time and energy to understand your business, to share our experience and knowledge and know-how. We have a lot of passion about what we do. We really care about what we do. And we're able to not just talk to you about and consult, we're able to implement it, support it, maintain it, and help you evolve. And that is at the core of what we do as a strategic partner. We do all of these things that we talked about before. We can help provide the framework to your success. So with that, that concludes our presentation. Kurt, thank you very much. Jeff, thank you very much. We think we're a great strategic partner. We'd love the opportunity to have a conversation with you and to sit down and determine what outcomes you want to achieve and how we can be that strategic partner to get you there. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.